Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Sunday evening to you all. I hope you guys are doing well out there tonight and certainly had yourselves a great day. And I hope you all had a fantastic weekend, as unfortunately it comes to an end. I'm about to head off into another work week. But regardless, I hope you guys are doing well out there, and thank you all for joining me as we talk about multiple things in tonight's video. Luckily, none of the stuff I'm going to talk about is really concerning. Really, the most concerning thing I would say is the chance of strong to severe storms, but I wouldn't say it's a concerning threat whatsoever. But we will speak on that as basically a low pressure with the associated trough will swing across the country, almost like a zonal flow from west to east. And we'll bring the chance for some showers and storms and just some rain in general. We will have to fine-tune the details on the severe threat here in the coming days. But right now, not looking like a big severe weather event by any means. But we will speak on what's driving that potential. We'll speak on the Gulf flow that is now likely going to happen. This will bring some beneficial rains to like the deep south, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, maybe as far north as the Carolinas. We will speak on that. And then behind all this, we are going to have another cold front that is basically going to reinforce the dry, cool air. And definitely good news for you autumn fans like me. Another cold front's coming. And really the models are locked in on this. And it's funny, you know, the timing looks almost the exact same as the cold front that just went through. So we'll speak on all that in this video. We'll get as detailed as we can this far out, and at the very end of the video, we'll go like to the 10 to 15 day range and really just speak on what I'm seeing as far as the long range pattern. You guys know I never speak too much on that, but I think that we can speak on it in this video. Just the fact that that's not too far out, and confidence is not high, but it's moderate, I would say, on what the general pattern looks like, maybe for the middle to later half of October, the month that we are in. So if you folks have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And I always want to say this when things really slow down on the channel. Just a special thanks for people who continue to tune in these slower times. It's kind of like with me, you know, guys, I keep it personal with you folks. When things are popping with the weather and my YouTube is just growing like a weed out there, it's just growing like crazy, like what was happening back in September. It's awesome. You know, it's almost surreal. It really is. It's almost like my future is changing because you guys are just growing this platform that means so much to me and my family. It really does. But, you know, at the same time, it takes a wild amount of time. It takes so much of my time just having a full-time job. But I don't ever complain about it. I just suck it up and I keep pushing through and pumping out the content because I love doing it. But also, you get into times like this where things really bog down, really slow down. There's not really much to speak on. And the videos don't take as much time, as much effort. And the negative thing about this is the growth really slows down. It's almost stationary. But it gives me a time, it gives me a time to really catch my breath and just to catch up with things outside of the YouTube world, if you will. So it's kind of like you weigh out the goods and the bads with it, but it always just kind of weighs out. So I know this is going on almost 4 minutes. Just thank y'all for the support and just continuing to tune in. You guys are the core of this channel who continue to make this part of your routine. I just want to say thank you. Sorry for talking you guys' ear off almost 4 minutes in. If you guys got anything I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put it in the comments below. I have not had a chance to answer the comments from this morning's video. I will do that probably tomorrow morning, but I will get to it. So 4 minutes in, let's talk about the weather. So we'll start off by looking at the satellite, guys. I mean, there's not a cloud in the sky for a large percentage of the country, and the satellite visibility shows what's going on very well. You got a northwestern flow. The storm chaser, his name's Peter. He's a great storm chaser, fantastic photographer. He is up at the Snowshoe Resort right now in West Virginia, and it's snowing. There's some flurries flying around, so you can see the clouds over this area too. So not surprising at all with so much cool air around and the dry air mass in place. But in the deep south, not a cloud in the sky. Right off the coast, though, into the Gulf of Mexico, you got a zonal flow, offshore flow ongoing, dealing with a little bit of shower activity in Florida. But out west, a tall ridge is really built in. And I will tell you guys, if you're tuning in and you live out west, I won't speak on you folks much just because a ridge of high pressure is really dominating your weather, and you will just be dealing with a lot of sinking air, a lot of quiet weather, not a whole lot going on over the next week or so. But you got that low pressure spinning around in Canada. This is even bringing some snow in portions of Canada. So this is what's going on right now, but let's go on and start talking about the future. So we'll start off Tuesday morning. You still got this pesky low pressure up here in Canada. Look at this energy down here on the west coast of Mexico. And I want to tell you guys really quick, if you hear dogs barking at any point in this video, it's because my wife is probably going to walk in the house in about 10 or 15 minutes. If I'm still doing this video, we're watching sister-in-law's dog as they're on their honeymoon from the wedding we just went to. And he barks every time somebody busts through the door, rings that doorbell. So, disclaimer there. But you got a lot of energy right here down here in Mexico. This leftover energy will eventually cross Mexico and then get into the Gulf of Mexico and just still be a low pressure. At the same time, you got this low crossing the northern Rockies. Okay, so these things are kind of working together, not really connected or anything like that, but you got two things going on at one time. And we'll stop it right here. This is around Wednesday afternoon, lunchtime, depending on your time zone. Low pressure just getting kicked out the Rockies. You got a lot of energy over Wyoming, Montana, but this isn't a huge deal. It really isn't, just a surface low associated with another trough that's digging down to portions of the lower 48 that will eventually have an associated cold front that will sweep through. So we're getting into midweek. We got rain moving over the deep south. We need this. Look where this rain is too. Some of these areas have the most high-end drought that you can have. A big-time deficit as far as rain. Rain moving in. Might be a nice soaker too, especially if you're hugging up along the Gulf Coast for sure. And this moves in, starts to take over Georgia, the Carolinas. We're getting into the overnight hours of Wednesday into Thursday morning. Look at this heavy rain falling in areas of Alabama, South Georgia, the Panhandle of Florida. Rain starting to move into South Carolina. At the same time, here's that low. How much of a moisture return do you get? Does this Gulf storm right here affect just the ingredients in general for severe weather? I think it does. I think if this Gulf low was not here, you would have a bigger severe weather threat with this low pressure right here. But regardless, I think that you're going to get a lot of rain, and this low pressure begins to head off the coast of the southeast. Not really a big deal anymore, except some leftover rains into Thursday afternoon and evening. But look at the snow showing up in western Nebraska, areas of northeast Colorado. It's getting to that time of the year where you start to see those really early season snows, even into Denver. But I mean, we're just getting deeper into the season now, guys, and we start to see just more dynamic weather in general. But low pressure sitting here, we're getting in the Thursday evening. Some of this green you see on the map will probably be falling in the form of storms. But I definitely think this will be a pretty powerful land low pressure flying across the middle of the country, getting into the Midwest. Still some enough forcing down here for maybe some showers, even outside the low pressure it just moved through a couple days prior. So I think it's going to be a humid air mass kind of rebuilds into the southeast. Okay, so the air mass that we have in place right now will be replaced by a moist air mass again by the end of the week, and then will be replaced, if you will, by more dry air behind a cold front. So we keep this going, low pressure right here, right over the Midwest. This flies through, brings some rain for the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, the Great Lakes region, and this low pressure continues to fly. I mean, this same low pressure that was all the way on the western U.S., just chugging almost a zonal west to east flow. And then we start to, unfortunately, have another rainy weekend for the Northeast potentially. Look at all this rain as we're waking up Saturday morning, October the 14th. A lot of rain starting to take over the Mid-Atlantic, the Northeast, and another soggy potential this weekend for the Northeast. So that's really a quick view of what could happen. Now it's just all about getting detailed. I want to watch to see if this low pressure that crosses across the middle of the country maybe gets blocked, and you might have some strengthening with this low pressure sometime early next week. Maybe a nor'easter tries to form really quick. We got to watch that. But that's in general the pattern over the next 7 to 9 days. Okay, talking about that severe weather potential with this low that will fly across the middle of the country, there's not much showing up. This is Tuesday, October the 10th. Just a general risk of storms over the northern Rockies, Missouri, areas of southern Iowa. Okay, now we start to get to the day 4 through day 8 range. It says predictability too low. I want you to go down here, and if we were to read this, it talks about that surface low. It talks about that low-level warm advection, but it says confidence still remains too low to include a 15% severe area across parts of the Central Plains on Wednesday, but at least low severe probabilities appear possible in later outlooks. So I would not be surprised if, as they figure out what this is going to do, this gets fine-tuned and we do get a couple slight risk days that come up across the plains, the Midwest. I think it's very possible with this surface low. I think this is going to be something that it might grow in more confidence as we get closer to those days. So, if you live anywhere from, I would say, eastern Nebraska, Iowa, northern Missouri, the Midwest, I would say there is a chance for some severe weather this week. I think we just need to figure out more details with this. But what we do know with this surface low flying across the country, and hopefully this will pull up for us, we'll start this off Wednesday morning. Okay, these are dew points. So dew points in the 60s is definitely a supportive thermodynamic as far as low-level moisture for severe weather. You got dew points in the 30s and stuff around this. That doesn't support severe weather. So we got an advection of low-level moisture all the way up into the Midwest, and basically connects to like almost a mini triple point where you have the best kinematics, the best thermodynamics. We won't get too much into that unless we have to. But this is basically a big warm and moist sector. Moist air, and then this continues to kind of flex into this region, into the cold front behind this trough, clears out this atmosphere. But you will have a couple days, Wednesday into Thursday, of a big time moisture, not a big time, but a pretty supportive moisture return all the way up into southern Iowa. So this could create an atmosphere for some severe weather. It certainly could. So moisture return, and then behind it, look, the dew points substantially drop off. But look, and we'll talk more than this later in the video. Just hold up, and I'll got you covered. But we got dew points in the 70s, returning all the way up into central Georgia, the South Carolina for Friday. But it doesn't last long. But looking at the K index, which indicates where we can have thunderstorms, and it really begins to spike Wednesday evening into Nebraska, Iowa, maybe areas of Kansas, Missouri. And this is where we could get the higher chance of thunderstorms. Not necessarily a higher end, but a higher chance of thunderstorms. This moves into the region and definitely could get some storms across the Midwest. So it's just something we need to watch. I don't think it's going to be a big threat, but it's certainly something we need to watch as we continue to move into the future days. Now, speaking on the Gulf low and the rains that we could get in the deep south this week. Now, I know this is probably a bigger topic for folks in Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, heck, even Georgia and the Carolinas. I mean, I'm very interested in this. I live in South Carolina, and I've mentioned we have not received rain since September 17th. Now, we were lucky enough to get about 2.5 inches of rain on that day. But yeah, it's getting very dry even here in my neck of the woods here in central South Carolina. But speaking on this Gulf low, that energy will cross, which basically is a tropical system in the eastern Pacific, will cross Mexico. And you'll see it come up on this portion of your screen. Now we're getting into Tuesday morning. Not a whole lot's going on. We're getting into Tuesday evening, getting into Wednesday morning, and here it comes. Rain even for the coastal regions in southeast Texas. Well, we're waking up Wednesday morning. Rain is beginning to take over southern Louisiana, areas that definitely need the rain. And I'm talking about, Baton Rouge, New Orleans, the Bayou. This is creeping all the way into southern sections of Mississippi. We really need the rain here, guys. We really do. And this starts to take over as we're getting into Wednesday afternoon, October the 11th. Starts to take over central and southern Alabama. It starts to rain at a pretty steady rate, it looks like, into areas of the Panhandle of Florida. I can tell you guys, this is a classic look for that you see in the winter here in the southeast. This is exactly where you'd like to see the moisture coming from if you want a classic winter storm in the southeast. But of course, we're in early October with no cold air around, and I mean you got to be lucky to even get the cold air around here in the winter. But this is a great low pressure track if you want a pretty far deep south winter storm. But anyways, we're just talking about good old-fashioned rain here. But, I mean, this is a good soaking rain getting into Wednesday. Now, this is the GFS. We're getting into Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday evening. How far north does this rain get? I mean, it looks like it gets to Atlanta. It looks like it gets through most of the state of South Carolina. Definitely, you're definitely getting into most of Florida. In fact, south of the low pressure, you get some thunderstorms in Florida that it is likely you could have a corridor, some pretty heavy rain. The closer you are to the actual Gulf Coast, I think the heavier the rain will be with the associated low pressure right into here. But this is going to bring some beneficial rains. For sure, you're getting into overnight to the wee hours of the morning, Thursday morning, still raining in southern Georgia, all of Florida, the low country of South Carolina, all the way up into the Midlands, and then this heads on out, and you can already see the system that we just talked about up north. But you could have enough with the moisture return really kind of moving into the region. We could have more rain that develops even into Friday morning. Some more rain starts to fall. And I definitely didn't think it's just going to be a damp Friday morning. We really need this rain to happen for us folks in the Deep South. But I really think it's almost a sure bet for us folks in southern Louisiana, southern Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia. I definitely think this is going to happen. If you look at the European, now the European is a little bit further south. For example, it really wants to miss most of southeast Texas. Does bring some rain. It misses a lot of southwest Louisiana. Does not bring near as much rain into Mississippi. Doesn't bring near as much rain far enough north into Alabama. The rain does make it all the way up to like Macon, Georgia, maybe Augusta. But I mean, it doesn't even show any rain falling in like Columbia. Keeps most of the rain pretty far south. Do I think this is going to happen? I would favor the GFS. What we know about these kind of southern stream low pressures, a lot of times they trend north in time. I would bet you $20 that the European trends more so to the GFS. And so I'm thinking that it's going to be more so of a GFS thing winning than the European. I think the European is just too far south, but let's hope that is the case. So definitely rain moves in, Wednesday, last all the way through Friday. And, speaking on that drought, this was from, I think, October 3rd. Definitely an exceptional drought, D4 drought, worst drought you can be in, extreme drought. So it looks like rains will fall in these areas right here. We can't leave out southeast Texas. I think you guys are going to get some rain from this also into Wednesday morning, okay? And if we are looking at how much rain can fall, let's definitely not leave our folks here in South Central and Texas out. I can't speak. Let's not leave our folks in Texas out of this. And I mean, you look at rainfall between now and next Saturday morning, October the 14th, beneficial rains showing up in southeast Texas, the entire Texas coastline. The GFS ensemble, which is a reliable source to use this far out, likes widespread 1 inch plus rainfall totals. Okay, now you look at the southeast, you look at the GFS ensemble. All right, beneficial rains. For southern Mississippi, especially southeast areas of Louisiana, all the southern half of Alabama, the central and southern half of Georgia, all of Florida. Now, you guys, there's certain areas in Florida that need rain, but most of Florida, is caught up with the rain. But we need rain here in South Carolina. You guys, South Carolina and even Georgia is a weird state where it's going to be tough to get rain, but I would say North Carolina is really the cutoff. I would say once you get into Columbia down to the low country of South Carolina, I definitely think there's a good shot of rain later on this week. But, the Deep South, the southern areas of the Deep South, definitely going to get some rain for sure. Now, you look at the European ensemble, it is definitely south, okay? More rain falls, but the axis of heavy rain is further south. Okay, we need this to shift further north into areas of southwest Mississippi. So let's hope we can get this heavier rain to get a little bit further north. So I really think it will shift north. We just got to watch it. We'll keep you updated on that. So that's the update on the rainfall. What about the air mass behind this next cold front? So this is the air mass in place now. These are dew points, not temperatures. Dew points. It's a great indication of what kind of air mass we have in place. What I want you to watch is what happens with these really dry dew points right here in the 30s. That's dry air. chances are maybe you've had to use some chapstick over the last couple of days across the country with this dry air in place. But what I want you to watch here is look how you get this moisture return that builds in. These dew points starting to move back out the 40s into the 50s, and then a lot of moist air with this associated low pressure begins to build in. And by the time you get into Thursday, you still got a little bit of dry air lingering around to the 50s, low 60s. That's not too bad. But right before this big old cold front sweeps through, look at this thing. Dew points will surge potentially all the way into the low 70s, all the way up into North Carolina, definitely South Carolina. Dew points into the 60s, all the way up into southern sections of Indiana, right ahead of a low pressure. I would watch a severe weather threat even getting into Friday for areas of Indiana with this associated low right here. We got to watch this. How quick does this Gulf low move out? I'm telling you, we'll have more details on any kind of severe weather potential when we have them. But a lot of moist air down here in the southeast for Friday evening, and definitely if you got any outdoor activities in Birmingham, Atlanta, Columbia, down into Florida, even Charlotte, you'll notice it's going to be a pretty moist night for October standards, a pretty humid night. But look at this cold front. You can see it off the dew points, right? You go from a tropical air mass, you're waking up Saturday morning in like Columbia, up to Charlotte, to Raleigh, to Richmond, Virginia, and you're thinking, dang, it is very, very humid for mid-October standards. But then by the time you get into the evening time frame, cold front works its way through, and then we're waking up again for another chilly Sunday morning. What I want you to notice here for our folks in South Florida is this cold front makes it all the way down to Miami. All right, so we're waking up Monday morning with dew points all the way into the 50s. Okay, and then it's deja vu all over again, and we have another very fall-like air mass basically across the entire country. So pretty crazy. As far as temperatures, you can really see how as it begins to warm up, we get into Tuesday. Look, 80s is starting to return across the south. All right, we're getting into Wednesday. 80s are returning all the way as far north as Kansas and Missouri, maybe even southern Nebraska. We're getting into Thursday. The only reason why you have lower temperatures down here in the southeast is just because you got cloud cover and rain. But look at this zonal boundary across the Ohio Valley and the Midwest, for example. And I think this is going to happen with a little bit of a zonal flow up here. You got temperatures in the 40s, 50s for highs in northern Illinois, northern Indiana, and northern Ohio. But in the southern portions of all those states I just mentioned, temperatures into the upper 70s, maybe low 80s. So there's going to be a big-time temperature gradient here. Then we get into Friday. All right, temperatures maybe getting all the way into the upper 80s, maybe some low 90s in the deep south. Okay, and then one last warm day for the southeast. Okay, I mean, getting pretty hot in Florida. And then here comes the cold front. And then we're all cooled back down. And I think a week from today, we're dealing with another fantastic fall-like afternoon across the majority of the country. So, you know, to say that here, we look at the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook, and this kind of takes us past that time frame, or it's kind of inside that time frame, but a little bit past. Below average temperatures are predicted for everybody in the blue, but especially the darker colors of blue, where you have a higher chance of below average temperatures through the 14th and the 18th time frame of October. Below average temperatures are looking likely, guys. So the glory days of October continue. I said this in this morning's video. Just because we have a cool October does not mean we're going to have a cold winter. There's no correlation there, guys. A lot of people think, yeah, you hear it all the time. I have people come into my job all the time. They're like, man, it's been a hot spring. It's going to be a miserable summer. There's no correlation. There's none. So just remember that, guys. Don't get too excited just because we have a cold fall. Remember, in the eastern U.S., especially the southeast, we had a below average fall temperature-wise. We had that big-time Arctic front in December. You're thinking, man, if you don't know a ton about weather, you're thinking, man, this is going to be a great winter if you're a cold weather fan, snowy weather fan. After that Arctic front we got around Christmas time, winter was basically over. I mean, this basically was spring after that, especially in the southeast. Now, you folks in Texas and the southern plains, you know, you would say otherwise just because you had those winter storms in the south central U.S., but you get what I'm saying. but cooler times ahead, okay? And as far as precipitation, fortunately, we're going to get some rain here in the coming days. But unfortunately, if we do not get as much rain as we are hoping for, we're going to enter what looks like another dry period regardless, in the same period that I was just talking about below average temperatures. So hopefully we get some beneficial rain because we're going to get dry again. Now we go to the 8 to 14 day temperature outlook. Below average temperatures still. And this is really just situated over the southeast. I mean, we're starting to get into the later half of October at this point. Okay? Above average temperatures for the western U.S. where it looks like a ridge is going to set up shop. Now you start to get to the same time frame, still below average chances of precipitation, guys, unfortunately. So it doesn't look like it just looks like that we're going to we got to get rain with these cold fronts that move through. If we do not, then obviously when the cold front moves through, dry, stable air moves in, and you got to hope that we get rain with these cold fronts. And unfortunately, with stronger cold fronts, a lot of times this time of the year, what we call the secondary severe weather season, we get severe weather, okay, with just these, changing with air mass kind of cold fronts. So if we go a little bit further out, we can look at low pressure and we can look at high pressure. All right, and the troughing you see in the blue, and then the ridging you see in the orange on your map. So right now, getting into this week, we obviously got this low pressure right over Canada that's kind of trapped. It can't really go anywhere because of this ridging up here in further north in areas of North America and just in Canada in general. Okay, this eventually will fizzle out. Okay, this is when our moisture return will happen, sometime later this week into early weekend. You notice you don't see the blue. In the same time period where it gets very humid again in the southeast, okay? A little bit of a southeast ridge flex right here, okay? But here comes our next trough, digging down with associated system, and this builds over the eastern U.S. into this coming weekend and just situates itself, okay? And this is the GFS ensemble too, and the troughing that you see in the blue, just think of that as some kind of system, kind of unsettled weather, but just think of it as basically probably below average temperatures that you see in the blue. But look at this persistent ridge over the west. And you get 10 days out, you get the 15-day range. And look at this. This is getting around the October 21st time frame. You got troughing in the east, ridging in the west. Classic look for below average temperatures in the east, above average temperatures in the west. Okay, and this makes sense. It lines up with the 3 to 4 weeks, 3 to 4 temperature outlook, okay? It lines up perfectly. There is a slight chance of above average temperatures out west, and there's some decent confidence that we're going to have below average temperatures for basically the last 1/3 of October into a few days into November. So it's looking like we're going to have more cooler days, more below average temperature days than above average temperature days for the rest of October. It really does. And the good news is it looks like chances of precipitation do return. So there are signs that southern jet is going to get active. So something that we need to watch. We also need to watch if we get cold enough air. Obviously the deeper we get into the year and just into the fall season, I would watch for some lake effect snow to start showing up maybe early November, maybe late October across the Great Lakes Snowbelt region. So there is a chance for above average precipitation coming up for the last 1/3 of October. That's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. Thank y'all for listening. And we'll continue to fine tune the things coming up as far as the weather. God bless all y'all. Have a great ending to your weekend, and I'll talk to you in the morning.